Called Worthy Fights. It details the tough decisions that he has made throughout his career. Panetta says he wrote the book because he wanted the people to know that the American dream is still possible.
But he also has a warning. Washington has to change or we will all pay the price. In an exclusive interview, I got a chance to talk to Secretary Panetta about the book, including his views on Washington gridlock, the president he has worked for, and his most emotional moments. Of all the decisions Leon Panetta has made over the course of 50 years in public office, none weighed more heavily than sending young men and women into harm's way. In one of the most poignant parts of the book, Panetta describes writing a note to a family who had lost 2 sons. Panetta writes, "And I realized with a sharp pain in my heart that Jeremy and Ben had both been in harm's way because of orders I had given, issued in the interest of protecting their country, our country."
When I would write letters to those who had lost loved ones, it's hard to find the words to try to be able to understand the pain they're going through. Now, I've got 3 sons, one who did serve in the military. So I know the pain. If we had lost one of our sons in battle, that pain is enormous. And yet these men and women are willing to go out there, put their lives on the line, fight and die for this country. And I just have to tell you, as painful as it was, as tough as it is, the greatest pride I have, and I guess the greatest sense of hope I have in our country, is that there are young men and women that are willing to do that. And if they're willing to do that, then damn it, people who are elected to office ought to be willing to govern.
Panetta is arguably one of the most successful politicians of a generation. But he's never looked for the spotlight. He got it for sure after the bin Laden mission. He was one of the key architects, and his description in the book is riveting. But for the most part, his toughest work was done quietly, relying on relationships, a willingness to compromise, and good old-fashioned political skill.
It isn't just about wanting to do the right thing. It isn't just about believing that you have a logical position on a particular issue and that somehow people ought to embrace it. Washington doesn't work that way. You got to fight for it. Governing is not an easy process. You're dealing with people who you may not like. It's the nature of democracy. Some are smart, some are dumb, some are honest, some are dishonest. They represent a cross-section of the country. But you have to engage, and you got to work with them. You have to develop a sense of trust, of give and take, and you eventually get it done. But you have to stick with it.
Politics have always been personal for Leon Panetta, from his start as a legislative aide to the highest levels of government, as an elected member of Congress, to Bill Clinton's budget director and chief of staff, to Barack Obama's director of the CIA and defense secretary. He says the 2 presidents couldn't be more different.
Bill Clinton was just, full of energy, 40 feet off the ground. I can remember getting calls in the middle of the night from him because he was, I think it was 2:30 in the morning, soon after I became chief of staff, and he called and he said, "Leon, are you watching C-SPAN?" I said, "No, Mr. President, I'm not watching C-SPAN." He says, "Well, Fritz Hollings is saying some stupid things." He was a senator from South Carolina. And I said, "Mr. President, you're the only person in the country probably watching Fritz Hollings on C-SPAN." So dealing with with somebody like that was not always easy, but it was in its own way very exciting. And Barack Obama is again, very bright, very able, but he is, he's somebody who's very businesslike, and he's not the kind of guy who kind of throws his arm around you and gives you a political hug. He's much more businesslike that.
Panetta's book is not without controversy. He reveals serious disagreements with President Obama over Iraq and Syria, and he's been criticized by current members of the administration who say he should have waited to write the book.
I don't think you can put a hold on history and kind of say, oh, well, we shouldn't talk about certain things at certain times. History is history, and I trust in the American people's ability to make the final judgments.
Panetta's book does give us a front row seat to history in the making, a fascinating look behind the scenes of our government, but it also comes with a warning.
It's what our forefathers did. It's what, those who developed the Constitution of the United States did. They had their differences. They didn't agree always on what this country should look like, but they were willing to give and take in order to find consensus, and that's what represented our Constitution. And that is the magic formula. It is a very serious responsibility because in the end, it's going to determine whether our country is a great country in the 21st century or whether we're a country in decline.